All right, guys, welcome back to Ground Zero DIY, and today we're going to start on another project. Like I said in a couple of the earlier videos, I got my little baby here and my Harley. It's 2018 Road Glide Special, and today we're going to start putting a J&R air ride setup on the bike. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying all the parts out, getting everything laid out and organized, and once I get that done, I will give you a little video overlay of everything that we're going to install, and we'll get started. Alright guys, it's Dan back from Ground Zero DIY, and I'm going to go ahead and pull you out of the camera mount here for a second and just kind of give you a parts overview of what we got going on. See, we have here our shocks, the tank, compressor, our key and valve gauge, dump valve, tank mount, compressor mount, ride height repeater, control module, firewall switch plate, and the various airlines and mounting hardware right here for this project. This is the second one I've done. I've done the same setup in my 2015 Road Glide that burnt in the fire that I talked about in the previous video. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and unpackage this stuff and get everything ready to install, and we'll be back shortly to start the install. Alright guys, so we're back, and we're about ready to get started. Got some tools gathered up and everything. So first thing we're going to do is I've unpackaged the first shock, which is the shock that's going to go on the right hand side of the bike, as well as the ride height repeater here. And the way this is going to be assembled is the ride height repeater slips down over the top of the shock, and then it slips over your shock bushing, just like that. It clips right into place. Okay, and so then this washer will go on the back side between the shock and the swing arm. So right now we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the factory shock. While I was off video, I placed a jack under the center of the bike so everything should set still. And we're going to go ahead and bust loose this factory shock and install this air shock. Okay, so we have the factory shock uninstalled. Now we'll go ahead and replace that with our new J&R shock with our hardware here. So now we'll torque everything to factory specs. Torque it once everything's all finished. So now we have that shock installed. We'll go to the other side and we'll do the same thing. We'll install the other shock. Then after that comes all kinds of fun. Also, when you're doing this, you have to take this little white plug out to be able to maneuver the shock up and down to get it on and off. And it's the same process. I know the camera you can't see, and I do not have any more camera equipment where I would change this up. Maybe as the video grows, I can do that. Alright, now we have both the shocks, they're installed. We're going to rearrange some tools and we'll be back. Alright guys, adjusting the camera here so that you guys can see what's going on here with this. So I've got the camera pointed down here, and we're going to go ahead and assemble the air compressor pump mounting bracket for the J&R air ride to go on the 2018 Road Glide. And then once we finish that, we'll assemble the tank bracket, which will be a similar process before we install this stuff on the bike. So this is your mounting support block right here, and it will mount on the inside of the fender strut. And so what you want to do is you've got your bracket here, and you can kind of see where this is off center. Okay, so now you have to think about how this is going to be placed on the bike in relationship to the back tire for clearance. So you want the shorter side facing the rear tire, so that puts the main part of the compressor away from your tire and closer to your saddlebag, so you don't have to worry about any clearance or rubbing issues with the tire. Now, the way I do this is I don't want any kind of a bolt head or anything sticking out, so I put the countersunk side toward the tire, so that the countersunk bolt head doesn't have any danger of it rubbing on my tire. And then we'll just take these supplied nylock nuts, and if you got big fat fingers like I do, it's kind of a trick to get them started in there, but we'll get those started, and then we'll do the same thing with this other bracket. Notice, mount it the same way, small side toward the tire, flip it over to put our countersunk, and that is a 3mm Allen socket screw, Allen head, whatever you want to call it. But it takes 3mm Allen wrench. Depends on what part of the country I guess you're from. I don't care. I call it an Allen head, Allen socket, Allen screw. So I've got those started. So now we'll just take our, I have here 1/4" drive because it does not take a lot of torque or force. 1/4" drive with a 3/8 socket to do our bolts with. And so what we'll do, we'll put our Allen wrench in here just like this. I like these Cobalt T-handles because now again, I'm not sponsored by Cobalt, but you have your little short side for leverage, and then you have your long side for speed turning. And we'll use this to hold our bolt. We'll get it snugged up here. So we've got it. It's getting pretty good now. Okay, so that one's in good shape. So now we'll do this one. Now what I'm going to do before I put this on the bike is I'm just snugging these up right now because I'm going to stick the pump or the compressor down in this and tighten this up with the compressor in here so that it everything lines up when I go to put this on the bike and tighten everything down. So right here is our compressor, and so you know, this is, take a screw and nut loose so we can slide the compressor cable or electrical connection through without pinching it. Okay, so this is going to be mounted in the bike like this. So you just got to play with it and get it up in there without tearing your seal off on your pump. Okay, so now I have the pump in here. I'm going to go ahead and tighten everything down to where it lines up around our pump. And that way, get everything situated right here before we put it on the bike. But mainly to get these brackets aligned the way we need them. That's the main focus of this part. It's just to pull these brackets into alignment. Okay, so we need to make some adjustments. It's right against the pump head, which I don't like. Then causes rubbing and noise issues when it's running. It's not that the pump ain't loud enough as it is. So we're going to slide our pump up a little bit in our bracket here. Now, like so. Alright guys, so we have our pump assembled in the bracket and everything is set up for it. So while we're doing this, we'll go ahead and we will assemble the tank and the bracket as well. It's going to be pretty much a similar setup here. So we'll get the bracket out of the package here. Little information pamphlet that comes with it. Now the only thing that I have negative to say regards to the J&R air ride setup is the instructions they provide are really not that clear. You have to have some pretty good mechanical knowledge to follow along with this stuff. It is what it is. It's just not the just not the best in the world. So our tank will actually set in the bike. Let's see here. We'll actually set in the bike like this, and so yeah, like that. And so this will be how it sets in the bike. So it mounts on the other side. We'll go ahead and tighten this down. So that it's, now we may have to do some adjustments as far as everything once we mount it over there on the bike. We'll do that once we mount it. But this is what you have right here. This is your setup. Sorry, I was out of the camera, but there. So now we're going to go ahead and we'll start in with mounting the pump onto the bike, and then we'll move over to mounting the tank as well. And so I'm going to do a little bit of rearranging here so that you guys can see, and then I'll bring you guys back into the video. Alright, so we're set up back down here on the bike, and we're going to go ahead and start out. We'll mount our compressor. So we're good with that. I'm trying to get positioned here to where you guys can actually see me, but there's a gap here, and that's where your bracket will slip into. That everything is going to clear fine. I can run my finger down between the disc brake rotor and the head of the pump, so we should be good with that. So I'm going to pause here for a second, and then we'll move over to the other side and we'll mount the tank. Okay guys, so we're repositioned around here. It's a little bit tight quarters. I do apologize about that. So we're going to go ahead and mount. Our tank. And this is kind of a new thing for me, because the last system I didn't do the fast up, and so I didn't have to contend with the tank. So this is a different system. So I just kind of studied over the instructions and make sure that I've got everything in place that I need. So the tank will, just like the pump, it will come in here and it'll mount just like this. Now, the one thing the instructions said is that we're going to have to do some modifications and stuff on the antenna bracket. So I just wanted to bring you guys in to show you that, and I'm getting ready to set up and take care of that, and then we'll be back. Okay, so what I ran into was this. There's an issue with clearance on the antenna bracket. So what you have to do is come in here and take this loose. Take your antenna bracket loose from right here. Take your rubber grommet out and get your bracket off. Now, it says on the instructions to cut your antenna bracket off right here for clearance. So I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw, and I'm going to cut it off on the bandsaw. So I'll cut that off and then I'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, we trimmed this piece off the way the instructions says to trim it off. So now we're going to put it back in the bike, and I'll try to video as much of that as possible. You know, I'm going to try to rearrange you guys to where you can see. Okay, so I don't know if that made it any better or not, but we'll go with it. So now what we got to do is we just have to get our antenna mounted back on here and get this bracket back in the bikes. All we got left to do now is we'll come in here, we'll tighten up our antenna mount, and put our antenna back on. Off version of it is. Now, as you can see, our tank will come in here just like this. And like I said before, we may have to do a little bit of adjusting, but this is the way it's designed. Okay guys, so as you can see, we've got things changed around here a little bit. So we have to run our main plumbing here for the pump to the tank. And so I'm not liking how that lays down around my tire and wheel. Move you around here just a little bit. Sorry, had you on the other side. So I'm going to refocus things here. Take out electrical panel up here to gain some clearance. Out of the way, we'll take up this battery tray. We're going to have it out anyway. It comes out of there just like that. pair of needle nose and put that up there. Okay, now we do have our air. Over to tank. Next, we'll come off the tank to the two shocks. This is the next routing that we'll go. And then we'll have the system plumbed up at that point. Now we're going to install our dump valve. That's the next item we have to get installed so that it can be plumbed up. The old system, it had a square dump valve which you could velcro to the side of the analog brake module on the bike, but for some reason J&R went away from the square and now they use a round dump valve that you just zip tie to the wiring harness here. I guess more cost effective. All boils down to probably. Now we have that wired in. We have our ride height repeater cabling. We're going to route that. We'll wire tie that to our picky. I just like to make sure that things are tied up nice and neat. Doesn't look like some half Jake leg looking job. And I just kind of do it as I go. On there. Okay, so we have our dump valve installed, right after repeater, shocks, pump, tank, main airline, wiring harness is coming up. So now we need to just look at running our air line. So the first thing we're going to have to do is come off of our air tank up to our first shock, T, come across T to the rod height repeater and all of that stuff. So that's where we're at now. So we'll be working on that stuff. Now I'll be on the other side. I'm going to move you back and forth. But it's pretty much the same process as the main air line. It's all push connect. And just a matter of routing the air line. Coming up off of the tank with our small feed line, coming up to a T. I'm getting ready to come off the T with the line to the air shock. In here just like our main line, and so we're going to come up here. This is where our next T will go, is right in here. And, this is the one that will go over to our other shock and down to the dump valve. So what you do is you make sure that you use a very good sharp pair of side cutters. You want a good clean cut, so make sure that there's no burr left there. Have that. Next we will run our line down here to our dump valve and up. To make sure the line is captured. We want to make sure too that it's clear as possible so that it's not rubbing holes in your airline. So honestly, that can cause a very bad day for your air ride. Plugs in right here behind the rod height receiver. So now we have our gauge. We'll have to come up with some place to mount it, and have to tee off to it. And that's something for a later date. But so right now we have all of the airlines run. We have all of our airline run. We have most of our electronics up here where we want it. Then we've got our dump valve, everything in. And the next step is going to be, we're going to have to decide on the location for the control module. We're also going to have to go ahead and get our switch mounted in, and so that's all taken care of. So that should take place probably tomorrow evening. But we're going to go ahead and call it quits for tonight, and we'll resume this project tomorrow evening.